Oh my God! Get ready, baby! Oh, get ready.
Hi everybody. So this story begins with the wonderful mother and father, Joe and Dorothy. Now, Joe and Dorothy were two really amazing people in their own right, but they had some wonderful children as well, especially my mother. My mom was a bit of a wild one, but one day she met my father, who I believe was actually working for my grandfather at the time, and as a result, they got married. First came my sister Jen. Wasn't she a cute baby? And then came me. But this is where my story begins. And you see, I had a lot of problems when I was born. I was born premature. A couple years later, I developed epilepsy. So my mom had it a little bit rough. It was definitely not easy with all the hospital visits and things like that. And for my mom, it was definitely a tough ride. But she looks like she's handling it pretty well. For whatever reason, things didn't work out between my mom and my dad, and so she was sort of a single mother. Unfortunately, my father was living in Texas at the time, and although we did spend summers with him and occasional holidays, for the most part it was just my mom raising us when we were very young. And having a child that had some medical issues, plus another young child, was definitely a lot for my mother. A few years later, my mom met this guy named Bob. They got happily married and we moved to New York. Now, moving to New York was amazing. I mean, my new stepdad, he worked for Madison Square Garden. So honestly, growing up in the 80s and having somebody that works at Madison Square Gardens in your family, well, that was pretty cool. Go Duran Duran and Thompson twins. Now just remember, it was the 80s in New York, and so my mom started trying some new hobbies. So some of her favorite hobbies were trampolining in the house, but most importantly, jazzercise. And it's funny that she was doing jazzercise because later on in my life, when I started to lose weight, I started to fall in love with Zumba. And my mother on her end actually got certified as a trainer, and I ended up going to Zumba training to be an instructor as well. Now, growing up, I wasn't the coolest kid. I was definitely a bit on the nerdy side, and having epilepsy, of course I had to take a lot of drugs that they found out later maybe I shouldn't have been taking. But it was a little bit rough. Kids can be rough growing up. But my mom was always there. When I came home from school crying, she was there to give me a hug. She was there to push me to continue to go back to school even though I didn't want to. So my mom was always there, always helping me, always supporting me. She supported me when I did my brownies. She went to all my recitals. She went to all my events, all my choir stuff, all my ballerina stuff. Now during my last choir recital, she was sitting in the audience and she just started sobbing. And the woman next to her was like, "Oh man, I know this is so terrible. It's the last one. I'm so sad we never have to do this." And my mom looked at the lady and she said, "I'm crying because I'm so happy I never have to do this again." That was my mom. Now, on that first day of college, my grandfather took me to W&J. That was super exciting and really far away from my mom. Might have even gotten in a little trouble, and I definitely did a little fibbing. I actually told my mother that in order for me to graduate, I needed to go to Africa. I'm not sure how I pulled that one off, but that was amazing. That was actually one of the most amazing trips I've ever been on. I spent an entire intersession, thanks to my mom and her funds, to send me to Africa for a small semester. That was fantastic. So thank you so much for that, Mom. That was really a lifetime event for me, so I do appreciate that. But she wasn't there just to help me with the funds. She was always there to support my sister and I in everything that we did. She came to all of our graduations. She made sure that we finished school. And for me, man, she did make sure I finished school. I went to like 100 different colleges, and it took me 8 years to get my bachelor, but I did it, and she was there by my side the entire time. And I'm so thankful that she just encouraged me to finish, and I actually sobbed on that day. I sobbed because I was so happy I never have to do class again, and no, I would never go back at this point. Years later, my mom actually stopped doing jazzercise, thankfully, and actually took up golf. And she is by far the most amazing golfer of all time. I think she missed her calling, and definitely should have been out on the greens more, because man, she's just about professional. My mom has always been amazing with the vacations that she's given us, or the little road trips that she's given us. She's always laughing, and she's really, honestly, the only one who really gets me. And man, when she laughs, there's nothing better. She's always willing to be goofy with me. She's super beautiful. And she's always putting everybody else first. She cares so deeply about her daughters. She's always willing to have a good time, especially if it involves singing or dancing. She's always a good sport when we need her. So I just wanted to thank my mother for always being there for me, for picking me up when I was down, literally and figuratively. I know it wasn't easy when we were younger. I know things were really tough when I was younger, but I want you to know that I really appreciate everything that you've done for me. And I'm really blessed to have you in my life. And you really are my best friend. And I really think every day that I get to spend with you. Happy Mother's Day.
Mom, it was recording your voice.
I didn't know that.
So let's restart it over. So push
I thought this was only video.
Yeah.